came out of the bushes surprised Scott. It was a wolf, merged, made of wood. It was unlike anything he had seen before. However, something strange and something very weird. Scott did not move or react. He just stared, blankly, deadpanned at the wolf. Scott didn't have to do anything. He'd already won the battle before it began. The wolf stared at him, snarling, trying to sound intimidating. But he knew that there are two types of wolves, dominant and submissive. This one was submissive. The wolf was losing its confidence under his gaze, knowing it had reached another being that was twice, 10 times more dominant than any of the previous wolves that she had been around. Staring at him, he got up, his opposing form walking over towards her. This timber wolf was easily intimidated by Scott, not just because of his imposing form, but because the way he carried himself, the dominant stance, the sternness in his eyes. The wolf knew it was outmatched, faced with something that had killed, not just once, but many times. The face of something that's taken life, but also gave it. He went over, and he let out a gentle yet firm growl in a demanding tone, telling it to sit. The wolf didn't know why or didn't know how, but out of nowhere it just sit. It just sat. Out of fear or instinct, it didn't know. He went and sat down. The wolf just sat there. It was staring at what he was eating. It looked kind of delicious, to be honest. It was a fish. She turned her head left, and there was a small river there, so she knew that he'd went hunting. She had gently began walking over towards him. There was a small limp in her pace. She'd catch tail with another animal, managed to get out, but she'd suffered. He noticed this, getting up. The wolf whimpered, knowing that he wasn't intimidated by her opposing form, that he wasn't intimidated by anything of her. However, the one thing that she was is she was more impressed. He went over and grabbed her by the snout and looked her dead in her eyes and said, do not even think about biting me, or your situation will end up much worse. What she did end up doing, or what he ended up doing, was wrapping something around her leg. Once he was done, she could walk a little easier. Actually, never mind, scratch that. She could walk 10 times as easier. Before anything else could happen. When she looked, he had a stick out, extended, and on the end was a A whole fish, just not a piece. A whole fish. He had quite a few fish. 3 more to be exact. He just said, "You're made of wood, so I don't know if you need it, but if you want it, you can have it." The wolf begrudgingly took the offer, scooping it in her mouth, and began gnawing and thrashing at it, eating it. He looked over and said, "I'm gonna give you a name." She looked up, tilting her head confused. He tapped his foot a little bit. He didn't know what to name her. And then he came up with a name that wasn't too special, but to him it didn't matter. He just decided to call her Jenny. Once he was done eating, he put out the fire and walked into his tent. The wolf looked at him once he had laid down in a sleeping bag. He looked out of the tent, rolled his eyes, and patted the spot next to him. Jenny began gently making her way, laying in the tent. Once laid down, she snuggled up to him. She felt warm and safe, happy. Scott realized this was insane, but he wasn't really that surprised. I mean, seeing a mythical creature such as a griffin and have it talk. And then fighting a lion with a scorpion tail. Weird has already come and gone. Seeing a wolf made out of wood that was alive, and having known about the celestial sisters and elements of harmony from what the griffins told him, well, he wasn't really surprised, and also knowing that the entirety of the realm he was in was made of magic. He ran his hand down her head, coaxing a little coo from the wolf. Jenny was obviously pleased by Scott. Scott shifted to get comfortable, staring right at her. And he said, You know, Jenny, to be honest, I feel like me and you have a lot in common. Jenny, however, seemed to drop the whole tough act and he honestly thought that she was deciding something over. What it was unbeknownst to him, until something really surprised him. She spoke. "Well, what's your name?" He said, "You talk." "Well, see, here's the thing. We have a voice barrier. A magical one. The ponies and no other race knows that we talk. It basically surrounds us and we can choose whether or not we want to be heard by you. or whether or not we want you to understand us. We can talk your language, well, whatever you are, and we can talk pony language, equine, but we prefer not to, as that would set things differently. Well, my name's Scott. By the way, I already have a name. She smiles. He sits there and says, oh. Sorry for giving you a name instead. It's okay. So, what's your name? She immediately pipes up and says it with the most adorable little face. She says, well, my name's Willow. Willow's a very beautiful name. He gives a soft smile, gently petting her on her snout, scratching behind her ear, which makes her more happy. It begins to wag its tail. Willow, begins to wag her tail. Out of happiness, joy. Well, Willow, you seem rather excited, don't you? Smiling to himself stupidly. Willow was happy. Finally, something or some pony or something, to say the least, accepted her. Many of the other wolves looked down on her for being weak. However, Scott didn't care. Scott could care less whether she was weak or strong. Scott was just happy for the company, to be honest with you. The way Willow's eyes glowed, that soft green, it was alluring. It calmed him for some reason. It made him feel at peace, to say the least. It made him feel calm, collected, happy. No matter what, Willow thought. He wondered. He wondered what he would do next. I mean, now he'd made a best friend with a wolf that could talk. And further, he wondered whether or not he was in some fever-induced coma, living out the last of his days. Or still wondering whether or not a bullet would be good. Right in his head. But he did know one thing. He had a second chance, here and now, and he was going to take it. He was going to live it, regardless of what anyone or any pony said. Can't believe he said that. The next day, things took an odd turn. It was when he woke up. See, when he woke up, he went outside, stretched, and heard a small gasp. He turned around, seeing a mint green unicorn. Greenish white hair staring directly at him. He didn't really know what to do. He had a neutral expression. With one eyebrow slightly raised, he said, "Hi, my name's Scott. What's your name?" Then the next thing that happened took him by definite surprise, is when it squeed and leapt, wrapping it or her hooves around him. Those golden eyes, they were kind of cute. She then said this. "Oh my God, humans are real. I knew it. All those others, I knew it was real, and I knew you were real. I knew you'd come." He raises an eyebrow slightly and says, "You knew a human would come? What, did you think I was gonna fall from the sky or something?" He raised an eyebrow very slightly. "Well, I didn't expect you to look like this. Look at you. But now that you're here, I have to show you to my friends, to show them I was right." She then looked past him and then shouted, yelling, "Timberwolf!" Immediately getting behind Scott, and he let out a small laugh and said, Don't worry about her. That's just Willow." "Willow?" "Yeah, I tamed her. Well, not really tamed her, she just decided to tag along." He took another piece of fish and threw it at her. Immediately she snatched it and began gnawing on it. He sat down, staring, saying, "What's your name?" "My name's Lyra Heartstrings." "And yours?" "Scott. Scott Thompson." It was then where they heard, "Lyra, where are you? Lyra, if I find you, I'm gonna..." We came around a corner. Lyra's best friend, Bon Bon. And what she saw, well, she fainted. He sat there saying, "Well, guess this is a great first impression